I found chat records of my wife cheating on me on her Facebook account. She said, "Our son misses you, and I miss you too, what should I do? Every time I make out with him, I feel like throwing up. He's really ugly and has a bad body. I only cooperate with him because I'm thinking of you. If he hadn't been rich, I wouldn't have married him. Honey, why aren't you the rich one?" I'm really crying. There are also many intimate photos and short videos of them. The excitement starts right away. If you like it, please help and click to subscribe. My brother-in-law Joseph always asks me for money. He just gave me $30,000 some time ago, and yesterday he found me in the hospital and asked for another $50,000. They say the new year is coming and we need to buy New Year's goods, etc. But I know there is no need for him to buy any New Year goods at home. He will probably just spend the money on eating, drinking, and having fun. Besides, I didn't have that much cash on hand, so I rejected him first. He left cursing. After returning home, his wife Sophia's already ugly face became even colder. I think Joseph complained to her again. So I rushed to the bank today to withdraw cash and gave it to him because I didn't want Sophia to be unhappy. If she's not happy, I won't be happy either. But when I got to Joseph's house, I saw that his door was ajar and I heard the sound of drinking and noise from inside. It must be his bad friends who have come again. I was about to give him the money and leave, but I heard him drunkenly say proudly, "Let me tell you, my brother-in-law is a loser. Not only does he raise someone else's son, he also keeps giving money to that person. Do you know who my nephew's biological father is? In order to take care of his business, my brother-in-law often buys medical equipment from him. And every Chinese New Year, my brother-in-law would invite him to our house for dinner. This idiot didn't realize that his wife, children, and money all belong to other people, ha 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 ha." His brothers all burst into laughter. "Oh my God, this is so exciting. Your brother-in-law is really a cuckold. How dare you talk about your brother-in-law's privacy? Aren't you afraid that we will tell others?" That's right. Thinking about the green hair on our Dean Zhao's head, I can't help but want to tell the whole world. Joseph sneered, "What am I afraid of? He loves my sister so much, he's in the late stage of love brain, he's so stupid. I asked him for $50,000 yesterday, but he refused to give it to me. Otherwise, I would not have invited you to drink at my home today. I would have taken you to the bar a long time ago." There was still laughter going on inside. But I was standing at the door and felt like I was struck by lightning, and my whole body seemed to be acupunctured and I couldn't move. The blood began to flow back and coagulated inch by inch. I tightly grasped the $50,000 in my hand, my whole body began to tremble, and my scalp went numb. What is he talking about? Sophia cheated on her husband, the son is not mine, and the man is still William, right? Just because I didn't lend him money, he spread my private information behind my back. I didn't go in, I just grabbed the money and ran away. After running all the way and getting into my car, I finally regained some consciousness. I calmed my pounding heart, took deep breaths, and forced myself to calm down. But Joseph's words kept echoing in my ears, and now everything I saw was green. Just then, my cell phone rang. I saw it said baby, this is a call from Sophia. But why are the two words baby so eye-catching? I picked up the phone with trembling hands, and Sophia's cold voice came from the other end of the phone. Have you sent the $50,000 to my brother? He said he hasn't received it yet. How matter-of-fact the tone is. Before today, I didn't have this feeling. I even think that my money is my wife's money and her brother is my brother. But now my wife, children, and brother-in-law may have nothing to do with me. How could she take it for granted? There is no evidence yet to prove whether this is true or not, so I decided not to alert the enemy and I need to calm down first. I deliberately made up an excuse. I was going to send it to him, but Huimin said he was in urgent need of money and asked me to pay him first, so I gave it to him. I am testing you on purpose. Sure enough, when I mentioned that William needed money, Sophia softened her tone and stopped blaming me. Okay, then withdraw another $50,000 for my brother tomorrow. I said something perfunctory and hung up the phone. Then my heart grew colder. If I hadn't heard what Joseph said, I wouldn't have thought much about her behavior today. After all, Sophia, William and I are classmates. In addition to keeping in touch, the two sides also maintained contact after they got married and had children. William is in the medical device business, and my family owns a private hospital. I purchase most of my medical equipment from him. It can be said that most of his company's equipment is consumed by my hospital. To thank me, he would give our family big gifts during the Chinese New Year and have New Year's Eve dinner at my house. But I didn't expect that the greatest gift he gave me was a son who was not related to me by blood. Although emotionally I already believed what Joseph said. But the last bit of rationality left in me requires me to provide evidence for everything. Maybe this is also an excuse I found to comfort myself. I drove home immediately. When I got home, I found Sophia had fallen asleep with her 2-year-old son Robert. Looking at the sleeping mother and child, my heart felt like it was stabbed. In the end, I hardened my heart and pulled a few of his hairs. He groaned in pain, then turned over and went back to sleep. After I finished installing it, I tiptoed out of the room. In order to prevent any complications, I put his hair in the car first, then started the car and rushed to the paternity testing center in this city. It was so late, the appraisal center must be closed, so I slept in the car for the night. The next morning, when the center opened, I rushed in immediately. The staff were all shocked by me. But seeing my eagerness, they understood. One of the staff members said to me, "Sir, no matter how urgent it is, you need to be patient. Although we know that most of the customers who come here will leave crying, there is nothing we can do." When she said that, I felt very disappointed. It seemed like I already knew the outcome, it was just one more desperate struggle. I took out my phone only after I submitted the materials. But I found that my phone was clean and there was no message at all. This was the first time I stayed out all night, even though I had social engagements before. But Sophia didn't ask a single question. Since her son usually gets up early, she must have gotten up too. No wonder he didn't notice that I didn't go home. So, she doesn't care if I spend the night away? Sophia is our school beauty. She is also the most beautiful woman in the man's world. Everyone wanted to pick them, but no one could. At that time, Yang was the only one who was a good match for her, and everyone was making fun of him. But neither of the two parties expressed their opinions, nor did they get together. On the contrary, they are the kind that dislike each other. Everyone speculated that it was because William came from a poor family and was from a small community. Sophia's family didn't like him, so they didn't get together. After graduation, everyone went their separate ways. Yang started a medical device business, and I inherited my family's hospital. Sophia found a job as a clerk. I was already the dean at that time, and Sophia and I happened to have a common project, so I tried to pursue her. It took a lot of time and money to finally get the beauty. I assigned her to work in our hospital on finance and equipment procurement. The following year, her son Robert was born. Could it be that Sophia met William when she was purchasing equipment? I went to the hospital and didn't go home. When I passed by the finance office, I found Sophia was already there. The moment she saw me, she was a little surprised. Then, while cleaning the table, he casually asked, "When will you send the money to my brother today? If you are not free, I will do it." I suddenly felt angry. I didn't try to suppress my anger as I usually do. "I didn't come back all night last night, and you didn't even ask me?" She was startled by me, her eyes were filled with dissatisfaction, and her tone was not good. "You are already a father, do you still need me to take care of you? You have your own feet, you can go wherever you want." I was choked by her and didn't say anything for a while. Suddenly I saw her managing the account books neatly, and an idea suddenly came to my mind. "She is in charge of all the money. How is my money?" I asked her tentatively. "The nanny said Robert is always crying and pestering you recently. Why don't you stay at home and take care of him wholeheartedly?" She paused, raised her head and asked me in confusion, "Michael, what do you mean? Do you think I'm not good at accounting?" Seeing her so nervous, I was stunned. Suddenly I realized that I was indeed a little too anxious. After all, the parent-child report has not come out yet. I had no choice but to deny, "No, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. I was worried that you would be too tired and my son would be wronged." Sophia's expression improved a little, and she continued to tidy up the table. She said absent-mindedly, "I feel sorry for him more than you do, but I don't trust others to handle my family's finances. I have a nanny at home, so I'm not afraid of New Year's Eve tomorrow." It sounds like she's thinking about me, but isn't it just that she's afraid to let go and afraid that I'll check the accounts? I decided to wait patiently for a few days and not act rashly. Because in addition to her being in charge of the accounts in my hospital, after marrying her, I bought 2 houses and 2 cars, both of which were named after her. It is also considered as marital property. If I quarrel with her like this, she will definitely take my money. If Robert is not my biological son, I must get evidence and make her leave the house with nothing. Instead, I lost both my money and my life, and was ridiculed and criticized all my life. The hospital is open all year round, but I will definitely be at home from New Year's Eve to the 5th day of the new year every year. In previous years, I would call William early and ask him to come home to celebrate the new year. But this time I deliberately didn't play and just made tea at home. Sophia started to get busy early in the morning, not with housework, but with dressing up. She wore brightly colored clothes and put on some delicate makeup. This dress was bought by me for her, but she never wears it even when I ask her to. After she put on her lipstick, she asked me without even looking up, "Did you call William?" I pretended to be confused and asked, "Why would you call him on New Year's Day? He also has to spend the new year with his wife and children." Sophia's face immediately fell. "What do you mean? I invited him to dinner every year, but I won't invite him this year. Isn't that bad? Are you in a hurry?" I still insisted. I didn't consider his wife before. He always comes alone. What about his wife and children? That's right. The more I think about it, the more outrageous it seems. What kind of man with a family would go to another family to celebrate the new year alone? If so, there must be something worth doing. Sophia's expression suddenly changed. She stood up and looked at me. "Then you can ask his wife and children to come along." I remained unmoved. At this moment, William called. I suppressed my anger and picked up the phone. Before he could say anything, he smiled and said, "Dean Shao, I wish you a happy new year and all the best." He is worthy of being a salesman. His mouth is so sweet that it's sickening. "I'm a bit busy today. I was just about to call you and ask you to come to my house for dinner." I smiled with my face, but didn't really smile, and observed Sophia's reaction. Sure enough, her face immediately turned from cloudy to sunny. William brought a lot of gifts when he came. In addition to the gift bags, he also brought a set of luxury skincare products for Sophia and a big gift box of toys for Robert. Sophia took it with a smile, and Robert was also very happy. I was the only one watching them like an outsider. The nanny prepared a sumptuous meal and we had some wine. At the dinner table, William and Sophia's eyes met many times, and they were all tearful. I pretended to drop my chopsticks and bent down to pick them up. They were looking at each other with love on their faces and didn't even notice that I had crawled under the table. As soon as I got in, I saw their hands holding each other. Sophia took off her high heels and wrapped her feet around William's calves. I almost vomited the wine I just drank. This scumbag couple. I used to treat Sophia like a treasure and William as a good friend. As a result, the two of them teamed up to put such a hat on me and asked me to raise their son. I was so angry that I almost flipped the table. But reason made me take out my cell phone and quickly take a picture of this scene. After dinner, I made an excuse that I had some urgent work to do and went into the study. Before leaving, he asked Sophia to send William off. After hearing the door closing, I deliberately turned on the study light and ran to the unlit balcony. The view here is the best, and we can see the alleys on both sides of our house. Now I truly understand that when people catch their partner cheating, they will turn into Sherlock Holmes and have very high IQs. As soon as they stepped out of the door, William immediately pulled Sophia into the alley on the right. Before Sophia could react, he kissed her. Sophia responded positively, and the two of them kissed passionately under the dim yellow light, reluctant to separate as if the end of the world was approaching. I stood on the balcony, holding my hands tightly, and my fingernails were digging into my palms. But I didn't feel any pain, just extreme shame and anger. They chatted for more than half an hour. I watched it for more than half an hour. When Sophia came up, her face was flushed and her lips were swollen. In the evening, I deliberately tried to be intimate with her, but she pushed me away and said that she was very tired today. In the past, she always found various excuses to reject me, and I could understand that. That's because I didn't expect her to cheat. Little did she know that her body and mind had already been occupied by William. I lay beside her, unable to fall asleep. After she fell asleep, I gently took her phone and unlocked it. We both knew our passwords, but to show my trust, I never looked at her phone. I hid under the covers and carefully checked her Facebook, and found the chat history between her and William. Neither of them were deleted, and they were only talking about work, without even a single ambiguous word. I don't believe it. How could there be no traces left after giving birth to a son? There weren't many people in her address book, so she took a quick look at them all and didn't find anything unusual. I had no choice but to try one last method, which was to see if she had a trumpet. I clicked on Switch Account in Settings, and sure enough, there was one. I guess I log in every day and switch successfully without a password. There is only William in the address book of this number. I clicked it with trembling hands and flipped upwards, but found that I could not reach the end no matter how hard I turned. The more I turned the pages, the colder my heart felt, until my whole body began to tremble. Not only does it contain their explicit and ambiguous chat records, but also private photos of the two of them. There are even many short videos in which the two of them are the protagonists. I don't know how I finished it. I find it hard to imagine how the cold Sophia could be so charming and affectionate in William's arms. I've never seen him like that. I also found the answer to this question from their chat records. It turned out that they didn't dislike each other at first, it was really because William was from the same community. She married me because my family is rich. She kept complaining about how ugly I was and how bad my figure was. Every time she was intimate with me, she felt disgusted and would only cooperate with me reluctantly by closing her eyes and thinking about William. They didn't even book a hotel room. Instead, they jointly invested money and bought a small apartment as their love nest. Sophia used her own personal money, and when the money was not enough, she embezzled $300,000 from the hospital. The money in William's hands is basically the payment I paid for the goods. Haha, it turns out that both of them used my money to buy a house and are in love. Every time they went there, it was during working hours. After all, they all had families and could not easily meet at night. I tried hard to hold back my nausea and took out my phone to take pictures of everything and save them. Anger and despair kept me awake, and I smoked on the balcony all night. All I can think about are their chat records and those videos and photos. God knows how much effort it took me not to slap Sophia awake and ask her why she did this to me. He didn't rush out to find William and beat him up either. It would be easy to beat them up, but I don't want to just beat them up. That would be too cheap for them. I must make them pay 10 times the price, otherwise I will never be able to let it go in my life. Because of the Chinese New Year, the appraisal center is closed and I cannot get the report in a short time. I felt relieved, but in fact I still held out a glimmer of hope that my son would be mine. On the second day of the Chinese New Year, I accompanied Sophia back to her parents' home. My brother-in-law Joseph was also there. The moment he saw me, his expression was particularly awkward, probably trying to curry favor with me, but then he thought about the $50,000 that he hadn't given me. You don't want to pay attention to me, but you'll want to grab me and suck my blood in the future. I ignored his awkwardness. Now I just want to know whether Sophia's parents know about this. I suddenly noticed that they had bought several new appliances. My father-in-law was making tea with me, Sophia and mother-in-law were in the kitchen, and Joseph was playing with Robert. I took a look at the new TV and asked casually, "Dad, our family bought several new appliances, why didn't you tell me so I could transfer the money to you?" The father-in-law took a sip of tea and said proudly, "This was bought by Huiman, saying it was a gift to honor us. Don't worry, when Joseph gets married, he'll be counting on you to help buy a house." It's William again. Still thinking about me helping my brother-in-law buy a house? This calculation hit me in the face. If it were in the past, I would definitely be willing to help a little, but now, get as far away as possible. That's what I should do. I can pay the biggest share when the time comes. Huiman is really nice too. He even said he wants to adopt Robert as his godson. I fully agree. After all, many people say that they look alike. I suppressed my anger and painted a big picture for them. After saying that, I took a sip of tea and observed my father-in-law and Joseph out of the corner of my eye. When they heard what I said, their faces suddenly changed. Joseph already knew the inside story, and it seems my father-in-law and mother-in-law should also know it, so they accepted William's kindness so naturally. After knowing the answer, I felt very sad. It turned out that I had been stupid for so long and they had kept me in the dark. The meal was tasteless to me because I promised them that I would buy a house for Joseph, and they all enjoyed the meal very much. But would I really buy it for him? How is that possible? While waiting for the report, I felt disgusted no matter how I looked at Sophia. She used to be my goddess, but my goddess blossomed in the arms of someone else. I stopped touching her and started to pay attention to exercise. I can't change my appearance, but I can still try to have a good figure. I don't want the words she said to stay with me for the rest of my life. She was a little surprised at first, but she just sneered and said, "Don't bother, it doesn't matter whether you are fat or thin." I ignored it. I needed exercise to digest the anger in my heart. After about 10 days of agony, the appraisal center finally opened for business. When the staff called me, I drove over immediately. The moment I got the report, I quickly hid in a deserted corner, closed my eyes and took deep breaths for a few minutes before looking at the results. Even though I was mentally prepared, I still broke down the moment I saw that Robert was not my son. If someone passed by at this time, they would definitely see a grown man squatting in the corner crying bitterly. Who says men don't shed tears easily? Let him raise someone else's son and see what happens. After venting my anger, I stood up and drove back to the hospital. I decided to save the money first and get Sophia away. Ask the Human Resources Department to immediately recruit a finance and purchasing person, and the purchasing position must be a man. It doesn't matter where the finance person comes from, as long as he can come to work tomorrow, I'd be happy with a higher salary. The HR department was very quick and sent someone to interview me in the afternoon, saying that he was a friend they knew. She is a young girl who just graduated from college and is unemployed at home. The little girl is called Emily. She is pretty and looks clean. But these are not the point. The point is that she can start work immediately. When I took Emily to the finance office, Sophia was a little confused. Michael, why did you bring a little girl here? I smiled and said, after thinking it over again and again, I still think it's better for you to stay at home and take care of Robert. Today, my friend happened to introduce Xiaowang to me. It's better to do it today than to wait for a better day. Sophia's face suddenly darkened and she refused directly. I don't need anyone else to do it for me. I can do it myself, don't you believe me? If I continue to trust you, I will lose everything. I didn't give in either. Little Wang is here. I'd be sorry for my friend if I refuse. You just stay home and have a good rest. I'll give you all the money I make in the future, okay? After hearing my promise, her complexion finally looked a little better. After all, my salary and the hospital's profits amount to several $1,000,000 a year, which is much greater than the financial temptation. She thought about it for a few minutes before finally giving in. Okay, I'll just go home and be a full-time housewife. Getting Sophia out of the hospital was only the first step. Next, I asked Emily to check the accounts carefully and check everything Sophia did in the past 3 years. This will take some time, so I will interview the purchasing department first. The purchasing agent is a man named Mark, who has several years of experience in medical equipment purchasing. After the interview, I hired him. I don't know whether Sophia had discussed this with William. When he came to the hospital the next day, he was a little confused to see that the finance and purchasing departments had been replaced. Especially since the purchasing agent was a man and his Sophia was missing. His face changed slightly, and he deliberately tested me. Michael, you are so capable, why did you hire such a young and beautiful girl to work in finance? Where is Sophia? I smiled and said, I asked her to go home and rest up. I want to prepare for having a second child. His expression changed slightly just now, but now it has changed drastically. It seems that my made-up excuse fooled him. He realized that his reaction was a bit too much, so he quickly drank tea to cover it up, and then made an excuse to leave. Looking at his figure, I fell into deep thought. When I got home in the evening, I found that Sophia didn't look well and her eyes were red and swollen. I deliberately asked her what was wrong, and she said she was so moved by a movie that she cried. He must have had a fight with William. At night, after she fell asleep, I took her phone and switched to the secondary account. Sure enough, the two had a quarrel in the afternoon. William asked her why she wanted to have a second child with me. Sophia denied it in a confused manner. But William didn't believe it, and he was still angry and said, Sophia, you can only be mine. You can only give birth to children for me. Do you hear me? I don't allow you to give birth to Michael. Sophia quickly agreed. I know. I know. He said he would give me all his money before I agreed to return home. When he gives me his money, I will give you half of it immediately. Don't be angry, dear. After reading their chat records, I almost vomited out my overnight meal. What is this husband and wife? Since you love each other so much, I will help you. The next day, I made an appointment with William's wife Ava. They have a daughter who is 1 year older than Robert. They gave birth in our hospital at the time. Not only did I arrange the best delivery team for them, but I also reduced a lot of their fees. Now it seems that the dog has been fed again. Ava is older than William, has high cheekbones, and looks old and fierce. Compared to Sophia, any man would choose Sophia. She didn't know why I asked her out. After all, our two families only interacted during the festivals. This was also the first time I met her alone. I didn't beat around the bush and got straight to the point. If I said William cheated on me, would you believe me? After hearing this, Ava's face turned pale. Then he sneered, I believe it, because he has been cheating on me for a long time. If he hadn't considered my family, he would have divorced me long ago. I was surprised. You actually know that he has cheated on me many times? She smiled palely. He cheated on me before we got married, but he knelt in front of me and begged for forgiveness, saying that he would never do it again, so I got married. At that time, I loved him too much and couldn't bear to let him go. My family provided the capital for his startup. I have two older brothers, one is rich and the other has some power, so he didn't dare to divorce me even though he kept cheating on me. Another love-brained one. Just as stupid as I was back then. I was a little angry. What if he cheated on Sophia this time and had a son? She stood up in shock, knocking the chair away with her, and said in disbelief, "How dare he?" Realizing her own gaffe, she looked around and quickly sat down, shaking a little. I laughed at myself and said, "Yeah, how dare he get together under our noses? He must be fearless, and Sophia is bullying me because I love her too much and trust her too much." She felt the same way and asked me, "So what are you going to do? Divorce?" I looked at her and said firmly, "Divorce is a must, but I want them to pay the price, which may affect you, so I want to ask you if you want a divorce." She hesitated and didn't say anything. After biting her lip and thinking for more than 10 minutes, she seemed to have made a decision. "I'll leave." "What do you want me to do to cooperate with you?" I didn't believe her and just told her, "No, just get a divorce." "You don't want to live in Sophia's shadow for the rest of your life, do you?" Every time they had a meal together, she looked at Sophia with jealousy and envy in her eyes. But at that time we didn't know that the two of them had already secretly sneaked into Chinsong. My words successfully stimulated her, and she said firmly, "I will divorce you, wait for my news, and then see how you behave, don't let him have it too easy." After saying that, she stood up and left. Because there is a 1-month cooling-off period for divorce, it was more than a month later that she confirmed to me that they had divorced. But I didn't feel any emotion. In fact, whether she left or not had no effect on me. Anyway, I reminded her that if she didn't divorce and told William, she would have to bear the consequences. William kept the divorce a secret from me and didn't tell me. I pretended not to know and called him to my office and gave him an order. Said I want to order a top-of-the-line MRI. This top-of-the-line device costs more than $9 million US. I roughly know his net worth, and it's probably no more than $5 million US. I asked him to order it first, and then pay when we take it to the hospital. Because they had been working together for so long, he had no doubts and agreed directly. The profit could be more than $1 million US, which was worth the gamble. He put in his own money, but it wasn't enough, so he had to borrow money from the bank to get the total amount. Thinking that he had just closed another deal and was getting divorced, he quickly announced the good news to Sophia on his second account. "Baby, that vicious woman finally let me go and divorced me. And your idiot gave me a big order, which can earn me more than $1 million US. When the time comes, you will also get divorced, and I will marry you, okay?" But Sophia did not agree to him immediately, but said, "It would be a big loss to divorce him now. I will try to get more money from him before getting divorced." William immediately praised her, "Baby, you are so smart." I watched it coldly, and then took photos one by one very calmly. At this time, Emily also discovered the financial problems and found that Sophia had been cooking the books for the past 2 years. There is $800,000 missing from the account. In addition to the $300,000 I know she used to buy the house, there is another $500,000 that is missing. Emily asked me if I wanted to call the police. I refused and said just give me the evidence. Holding the evidence of her embezzling money and cheating on me in my hand, I couldn't help but laugh. The person sleeping next to me is so despicable, which makes me seem even more stupid. I found a time when I went to Sophia's parents' house with her. I had just finished dinner with her family, and the next moment I threw the divorce agreement in front of her. "Let's get a divorce." The whole family was dumbfounded. Sophia's father was the first to react and asked me, "What do you mean?" Sophia is still looking at the divorce agreement. Sophia's mother also looked at me in confusion, and Joseph seemed to realize something and didn't say anything. I said calmly, "Just ask your good daughter. Not only did she cheat on me and make me raise someone else's son, she also embezzled my hospital's money. I didn't make a big fuss about it and make everyone lose face. I've already been considerate enough." Their faces all changed, as colorful as a palette. After Sophia finished reading the divorce agreement, she stood up angrily and said angrily, "Not only do I not have a penny, I don't even have a house or a car. You want me to pay $500,000? I spread my hands and said, "Yeah, you have to give me the money for your little apartment." She was furious. "Why do you do that? We have so much wealth after marriage." I laughed, "Yes, but what does it have to do with you? You are the one at fault. I have all the chat records on your Facebook account, the photos of you holding hands and kissing, Robert's paternity test report, and the evidence of you falsifying accounts and embezzling money. Any one of them is enough to make you lose everything. Her face finally cracked, and she was no longer the bright and charming schoolgirl. She asked me in disbelief, "You know everything? You're asking me this now?" I'm so angry that I laugh. I glanced at Joseph and said, "I have to thank my ex-brother-in-law for this. Otherwise, I don't know how long I would have been a loser." Their eyes turned to Joseph, who was immediately frightened and stammered, "No, no, no, it wasn't me, he just said it." I sneered, "If you hadn't drunkenly said something in retaliation for me not giving you money, and hadn't gone out of your way to ruin my reputation with your cronies, I wouldn't have known about it." Sophia's father finally understood what was going on. He rushed over and kicked Joseph in the waist. "Fool, idiot. You pissed me off. Now your sister's marriage is over, and you don't have a place to live." Sophia's mother also looked at me angrily, and then her eyes were full of resentment when she looked at me. "This guy is an ungrateful bastard." When Joseph was almost beaten, Sophia calmly shouted, "Okay, stop beating him. If he wants a divorce, then let him. Huayman is divorced anyway and has money. It's okay to marry him. Don't you like him too? Oh, so you have this plan. No wonder you were so calm just now and only cared about money." I didn't say anything more, but asked her to sign the divorce agreement for me immediately. She was still hesitating. After all, not only would she not get a penny after signing the contract, but she would also owe me $800,000. I reminded him, "If you don't sign, I will call the police." "Do you want to go in?" "It's not good for such a beautiful woman to go in." She was so scared that she quickly signed her name. Then he gritted his teeth and said, "Don't be so proud. You will regret it when William marries me." I put away the divorce agreement, smiled and said, "Sure, remember to send me an invitation, and remember to ask him to buy a house for your loser brother." After saying that, I walked away. Do you think you can live happily with William by divorcing me? Dream on. I had Sophia and her child's belongings packed up and moved away overnight. She originally wanted to pack her things herself, but I didn't let her set foot in my house again. When Robert left, he called me Dad in a crying voice. I felt a little sad at that time. After all, I had been with him for 2 years and I had feelings for him. But unfortunately, he is not my biological son. I can't raise him because when I see him I think of myself glowing green. As Sophia led him away, she said stubbornly, "Son, don't call him Dad. You have a dad, but he's not your dad." I sneered, "I hope you are right." A few days later, William came to me again. "Michael, I'm sorry, I was wrong, I destroyed your family, please forgive me. I really loved Sophia at that time. I couldn't help it. Please forgive me." I ignored him and looked at his gray face coldly. I divorced Sophia on purpose at this time, and he must have known the news. But his equipment has not been delivered to me yet and I haven't received the money yet. Not every hospital can get that equipment. He had no choice but to come and beg me. I was not panicked at all because the transaction between him and I was just a verbal discussion and there was no real evidence. He couldn't even call the police. Seeing that I did not respond, he continued. "Michael, you can beat me or scold me, but please don't ignore me. The equipment is ready. I can pull it over any time." I laughed and laughed for a long time. In his panicked eyes, I slowly said, "I don't want the equipment anymore. I don't want to see you again. Go away." He was so anxious that he almost walked around in circles. "No, brother, this equipment has drained all my assets, and I still owe more than $3 million US. I know I was wrong. I'm willing to kneel down in front of you and beg you." I raised my eyebrows and looked at him, then kneel down. He literally knelt down in front of me and slapped himself repeatedly, saying, "I'm a slut." I couldn't resist the temptation. "I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry, Michael." I recorded this video of him, sent it to Sophia, and then blocked her. He hit himself for a while, his cheeks flushed as he looked up and asked me, "Michael, is it okay now? Can I pull the equipment over?" I put away my phone and laughed, very loudly. "Are you deaf?" I said I don't want the device anymore. He was stunned, and when he reacted, he jumped up in anger and yelled at me, "What do you mean? I've already knelt, and now you're telling me you don't want it anymore?" I said, "But I didn't agree that I would have you kneeling down. You've been cheating on me for so long, what's wrong with you kneeling down? Is that too much?" He got furious and tried to hit me with his fist. I picked up the intercom and said, "Security, come in. There's a lunatic in my office who wants to beat me up. Take him away." Before William's fist could land, he was caught by the security guard. He was so angry that he yelled, "Michael, you idiot. I won't let you go. You run a hospital, believe it or not, I will kill you." I leaned in front of him and said, "You can give it a try." As it turned out, he never had the chance. Before he could do anything to me, Ava's two brothers hired someone to drag him into a dark alley and beat him up. When he was sent here, not only had he lost his life, but he was also paralyzed on one side of his body. When he was sent to our hospital, I wanted to refuse to admit him, but then I changed my mind and kept him. Just tell the doctor to try his best. 2 days later, Sophia and her parents came to see him, and found that he was not only disabled, but also owed so much money, and he would not let Sophia marry him no matter what. Sophia did not make a fuss, but calmly followed her parents' arrangements. I think she must be scared too. Not only was she afraid that the disabled William would drag her down for the rest of her life, but she also had to live in debt. I saw the scene at the door and couldn't help but sigh at human nature. When you have everything, even your farts smell good. When you lose everything, people turn around and leave immediately without any emotion at all. William was still lying on the hospital bed, and seeing Sophia like this, he got angry and wanted to get up. As a result, he couldn't get up and fell back, looking very embarrassed. After seeing it, Sophia and her family became even more disgusted and immediately found an excuse to leave. When she saw me at the door, Sophia's eyes instantly turned red. She looked at me pitifully and said, "Michael, I know I was wrong. Can I still be with you?" Her parents also echoed, "Yes, Michael, my daughter really knows she was wrong and will treat you well in the future." I sneered, "I'm sorry, I feel sick just seeing you guys. Don't come to my hospital for treatment in the future. Go somewhere else. Thank you." Their faces turned pale, like pig livers, But I was standing at the door and felt like I was struck by lightning, and my whole body seemed to be acupunctured and I couldn't move. Sophia turned and ran away angrily, and her parents followed her. I walked to William's bedside and said coldly, "I have asked someone to notify your family to come. Please be discharged from the hospital." He was still angry, and now I ordered him to leave. He was so angry that he wanted to get up again. He fell back down again, and angrily yelled at me, "Are you still a human being? I haven't even recovered yet, and you want to drive me away?" I raised my eyelids and said, "You are penniless and in debt. I saved you because I felt sorry for you." "Oh no, I saved you because I wanted to watch a show. Now that the show is over and you have seen how embarrassed you are, you can leave now." Then I turned and left, completely ignoring how crazy he was behind me. His family came to pick him up in the afternoon. After a while, I heard from a friend that William was paralyzed in bed all day and needed someone to take care of him. His family was exhausted and no longer treated him kindly. They don't even take good care of themselves. They often stink all over and have sores on their backs. They look so pitiful. Sophia was introduced by her parents to an older man with some money, and she married him with her son. It is true that it is difficult to marry a woman with a son. I heard that the old man treated her badly, beating and scolding her, and not giving her much household allowance. The key is that he often cheats. Sophia wipes away tears every day. Only now did she realize how happy she was to marry me. What a pity, she ruined such a good hand by herself. My friends were all sighing, but I didn't feel anything. After all, every adult has to pay for his or her own choices. As for me, I have been getting close to Emily recently, and it was me who took the initiative. Because I found that she was really simple, like a little white rabbit. I want to protect her and keep her from getting hurt. The main thing is that she was very nice to me, and the way she wanted to get closer to me but didn't dare to did so made me very moved. She clearly wanted to bring me the meal she cooked, but she was too embarrassed to give it to me. I think my happiness is coming,